Tai.
Kiek dabar viską ir jungiu?
Taip, viską jungiu, nes jau...
Karoli, bus kažkur dar, jeigu ką reikės, ar ne?
Aš čia visi ateisiu.
Ok. Distraks. Čia visoka. Žinoma, saulės.
Kiek paskaito?
Ai, dalykas. Rasa. Šitai, baig.
Nes tam sakau, štai kas tam parodo. Можно дать, помогать.
Izolda, čia galima išeiti?
Jo, per čia gali. Visų rankos drabo. Vis tiek reikės numesti.
Čia tam discipliniškumas? Kokia čia sesija?
Dar disciplinis.
Antra. Va. Tai mes sėdėdami ir paskaitinėsim.
Ai, rodo, ne?
Čia ties kaip režimai.
Kokia?
O paskui
O kas rodo šitai?
reikės perjungti tą display.
Tai palauk, rodyti, čia reikės daryti.
Tiesiog display ir duplicate. Kad tas pat būtų.
Va, dar kartą, kas yra tuščia? Padaryk tuščia, kad nebūtų nieko. Palauk, padarykim nieko.
Tiesiog skaidrės paleiskit.
Nu, dabar kaip atidaryti, jeigu kažką užšinko, nu? Kaip dabar atidaryti? Ir čia negalima?
Galima paspauskit.
Tai čia viskas gerai, ne dabar bus.
Vis tiek reikės pakeisti.
Tai viskas tada.
O tai čia bus, ar ne?
Kartas bus
Ir tada čia.
display ir
Duplicate.
tas antras. Kad tą patį matytų ir čia.
Profesorė, gal galim jūsų skaidrę, čia negalim kelti, va šitą. Ar ne? Kaip? Jūs skaidrės gal galite įkelti?
Kažką specifinio žinoti.
Gerai.
Kažką specifiškai žinoti.
Nežinau, mes dabar bandome.
Sakė, kai paspaudžiam šitą,
Bet rodyt, ne? Prezentacija.
rodytų
Čia atsiranda.
ir tada reikia paspausti Display Settings, Duplicate Slideshow.
Ir viskas.
Nu gerai, šitą
Šitą
žinosiu.
dalyką reikia padaryti, ne?
Galit keltis?
Jo. Jūs dar norite kelti?
Karolė.
Ai, čia.
Nors mano pats pirmas, tai aš nežinau, ar man čia reikia keltis.
Būtų geriau.
Bendrai, jo.
Pasijungia profesorius.
PowerPoint'ą man. Čia yra, jo, kad antrą.
Pajungi antrą linką.
Pajungi viską.
Ar yra prisijungęs mūsų moderatorius?
Zoltan. Man atrodo, kad ne.
Ištraukt. Pasak ištraukt.
Jo. Čia jau nežinau. Turėtų šiek tiek net trukdyti.
Okay, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
You can. Perfect. You can also see me. Great. So everybody can hear you. You are the moderator here. So I would like to introduce the moderators of this section here. And the moderators are Professor Zoltan Lachner, Professor Sergey Vinogradov, and Associate Professor Izolda Skrbita. Izolda is going to be present here, so she will take care of everything that you're able to hear if needed, and provide a microphone if needed. If not, if there are problems, please contact me. I will be here and in the other session during this process. So I'm giving the word right now to Professor Zoltan Lachner. You may begin this session. Please try to keep everything on schedule and on time. Thank you.
Microphone, please.
Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank you for the possibility to be present and to be part of this very important and very interesting academic event, in framework of which we have different very interesting presentations from a rather wide topics, and as you have been able to see in the invitation, there will be a very big portfolio, a very wide portfolio consisting of different topics, embracing different aspects of modern management science, and we will see a very wide range of opportunities to lay down different fields of cooperation and collaboration with you in different aspects of science and technology. And I sincerely hope that this will offer a favorable possibility, a favorable surface and interface for further cooperation. But to be efficient, I would like to ask you to be as disciplined as possible, because we have numerous presentations before us and our time is rather limited. That's why I would like to ask each of the presentators not to use more than 12 minutes. We will use a stopwatch, and I will use this stopwatch to offer a possibility to somehow manage the time. That's why, first of all, I would like to ask Associate Professor Simona Grigaliunier and Associate Professor Rasha Romerite Sheriekieni. Excuse me if I have not pronounced quite correctly the name, to head their presentations concerning the fulfillment of employees in the Lithuanian Business University of Applied Sciences their professional preparation during the practice and institutions of our companies. And the floor is to our presentators. I would like to ask the presentators to begin their work. Okay, excellent. And I will start the timer.
Good day. My name is Brasta. My level in English is beginner level. We will present the presentation in English, and my language is Lithuanian. Glaudus aukštosios mokyklos ir verslo įmonių bendradarbiavimas sudaro sąlygas studentams atlikti kokybiškas praktikas. Pastebimi esminiai pokyčiai darbo rinkoje, vis dažniau darbdaviai yra linkę dalinti savo gerąją patirtimį su studentais, priimant juos į praktiką. Švietimo institucijos vadovaujasi specialistų rengimui, reglamentuojančiais teisės aktais, dažnai iš darbdavių sulaukia darbo pasiūlymų jau studijuojantiems studentams, nes jų kompetencijos jau atitinka darbo rinko poreikius. Praktikos metu išryškėja įgytos studentų kompetencijos ir gebėjimai, kurios įžvelgiama praktikantų sukuriama pridėtinė vertė įmoniai arba įstaigai. Šiame pranešime yra analizuojami darbdavių pasitenkinimas Lietuvos verslo kolegijos studentų atlikusių praktiką įmonėse, įstaigose. Please unmute your voice. Professor. Please turn off microphone. Professor, please turn off microphone. Pažiūrėkit, kas kalba. Professor Yanis. Please turn off. Professor Yanis, please turn off your microphone. Pranešime analizuojame darbdavių pasitenkinimas Lietuvos verslo kolegijos studentų atlikusių praktiką įmonėse ar įstaigose, jų profesinis pasirinkimas, dabartinis bendradarbiavimas su aukštąja mokykla. Tyrimas yra atliktas 2020-2021 metais. Tyrime dalyvavo 415 respondentų, tai yra darbdavių. Pagrindinė įmonių veikla, kuriuose atlieka praktiką studentai, galima pastebėti, kad tai yra paslaugų ir prekybos įmonės. 2021 metais pastebima, kad išaugo atliekančių praktiką IT sektoriuje bei valstybinėme sektoriuje. Studentų profesinis pasirinkimas, jeigu mes kalbėtumėm apie darbdavių lygį, jų atsakymas ir darbdavių apklausas, tai tikrai labai išryškėjo 57% įvertinta ir pakilo procentiniais punktais, tai yra gebėjimas teorinės žinias pritaikyti praktikoje, kurios yra reikalingos darbo rinkoje. Pastebima, kad nukrito 2020 metais darbdavių vertinimas tai yra 43%, kada į studentus įvertino šiuo punktu būtent darbdaviai. Ryškiai išryškėjo motyvacija. Motyvacija 70%, vėlgi 24% punktais pakilo, kai darbdaviai įvertino studentus praktikoje, būtent per kovidinį laikotarpį. Pakilo būtent jų kūrybiškumas studentų atliekančių praktiką, tai vėlgi 61% ir gerai vertino 39%. Tai galima pastebėti, kad būtent kada pandemijos laikotarpį išryškėjo, ar nes ir studentams reikėjo atlikti praktiką, susidurdami su įvairiomis problemomis, šiuo metu studentai tikrai aktyviai dalyvavo įmonės veikloje nuotoliniu būdu, atlikdami praktikas ir tai reiškia pasimatė per jų įgūdžius, kuriuos ir pažymėjo būtent darbdaviai. Jeigu mes kalbėtumėm apie atsakingumą, ar ne, tai kaip matome, 2020 metais darbdaviai pažymėjo 99% netgi puikiai aukščiausių balų, tuo tarpu 2021 metais tik tais 37, tai tikrai ženkliai nukrito šitas rodiklis ir vėlgi gal įtakos tam galėjo turėti nuotolinę praktiką, kada iš tiesų studentai nejautė šalia pagalbos. Verslo įmonių bendradarbiavimas su Lietuvos verslo kolegija rengiant specialistus 2020 metais tik tais pažymėjo, kad priima studentus, tai netgi vienas buvo iš mažesnių punktų, o 2021 metais tai jau ženkliai iš tiesų tas bendradarbiavimas reiškia aukštosios mokyklos žinomumas darbdavių, reiškia, aplinkoje tikrai išaugo. Tolimesnis verslo ir Lietuvos verslo kolegijos bendradarbiavimo sritis, kuriuos pažymėjo ir išryškino darbdaviai, tai yra pagrindinė, ko labiausiai norėtų ir tikrai daugiau negu pusė arba pusė, tai yra inovacijų ir patirties sklaidos karjeros ugdymo tobulinime. Tai 2021 metais 50%, reiškia pusė respondentų, o 2020 41%. Galima pastebėti, respondentų šiame tyrime, kurie dalyvavo, buvo 215. Tuo tarpu vėlgi po truputį gana, sakykime, ne tiek ženkliai, ar ne, pasimato šitas skirtumas, tai darbdaviai pažymi rengiant ir tobulinant studijų programas. Ko galima pažymėti, kad vis dėlto verslas, ar ne, darbdaviai noriai stengiasi iš tiesų irgi įsilieti į aukštųjų mokyklų naujų programų rengimą, atnaujinimą arba tobulinimą, taip iš tiesų vėlgi ugdomi ir auginami savo būsimi specialistai bei darbuotojai. Galima tik tais pastebėti tokį dalyką, kad būtent šiais metais, ar ne, kada studentai ir nuotolinėse praktikose, ir nenuotolinėse praktikose vis dažniau pasilieka dirbti po praktikos toje darbo vietoje. Kolegijai buvo vėlgi kaip grįžtamasis ryšys labai svarbu išsiaiškinti, o kokie yra studentų trūkumai praktikos metu. Kadangi praktikos buvo labai skirtingos, tai galima tik tais paminėti, kad vėlgi toks kaip ryškiausias pažymėtas darbdavių ar ne punktas, tai yra asmeninių savybių arba žinių trūkumas. Reikėtų iš tiesų į tai atsižvelgti ir pasižiūrėti. Išvados. Empirinis tyrimas atskleidė, kad darbdaviai objektyviai vertina studentų darbą praktikos metu, todėl yra matomas poreikis prisitraukti būsimus darbuotojus į savo įmonės ar jų pasiūlyti darbo vietas praktikos eigoje. Matomas vis didesnis potencialas plėsti socialinių partnerių ratą skirtingomis veiklomis ir rūšimis užimančiomis įmonėmis, neapsiribojant Lietuva, o ir užsienio šalimis. Tokiu būdu labiau prasiplėstų kolegijos žinomumas verslo pasaulyje, praktikų organizavimas, praktinio mokymo bazės, studentų profesinis pasirengimas išlieka gana aktualus aspektas, kada darbo rinka ir pats darbas, o ir praktikos šiai dienai vis dažniau organizuojamos nuotoliniu būdu. Darbo rinkos ir švietimo institucijų atstovai yra suinteresuoti plėsti bendradarbiavimą, bei gali identifikuoti veiksnius įtakojančius glaudesnį švietimo ir darbo rinkos sąsajas. Verslo įmonės ir organizacijos bei Lietuvos verslo kolegija sieja pakankamai ryškus bendradarbiavimo ryšiai, pasireiškintis praktinio mokymo plotmėje, praktikų organizavimas įmonėse, darbdavių įtraukimas į kvalifikacijų vertinimo procesus bei bendrasias veiklas. Dėkoju.
Norėčiau paklausti, ar pavyzdžiui, jūs apklausėte tuos pačius darbdavius, ar kitus vienais metais kitaip?
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, which we could follow on based of English language slides. Спасибо вам огромное за эту очень интересную презентацию, которую мы могли видеть на английском слайде. Спасибо и поздравляем вас за этого. I think that we can all congratulate for this very nice pedagogical results, which has been achieved by the university as the high level of satisfaction of participants of this survey has shown. And congratulations for this. And before going for the next presentation, we have, due to very good time management of our presentators, we have time to one question. Is there any question or remark?
Yes. We have one question.
Mes iš tiesų nefiksavome, galbūt tiesiog nesirinkome, ar tikrai tos pačios įmonės ar ne, bet galima buvo numatyti per tokį skaičių įmonių apklaustųjų, kad gali ir kartotis, taip apie 30%. Kodėl nepatikimi, jeigu studentai yra kiti?
Įmonės apklaustos.
Taip, čia darbdavių yra apklausa. Tai darbdaviai gali palyginti.
Jūs teigia, kad pavyzdžiui, tai padidėjo įsidarbinimo po studentų, ar neturėjo, sakykime, irgi įtakos, kad šio laikų iki didelis,
Sakykime, kad po praktikos tikrai darbdaviai galima buvo manyti tai, kad darbdaviai vertino praktikos metu studentų kompetencijas ir atsirinko savo.
If there is no another question, then thank you very much and congratulations for this very interesting primary work. And I would like to ask our next presenter, Associate Professor Putinas Bielkis, to have their presentation about the tourism transformation, Industries Insiders EU. Professor, the floor is yours.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Putinas Bielskis. I'm associate professor here at the Lithuanian Business University of Applied Sciences, and the topic of my presentation is tourism transformation. I call it from the industry insider's view because I have been in this industry for more than 20 years. I am more practical man rather than the academic, but thank you for this opportunity to Lithuanian Business University to having me here. And now I teach tourism to my students. So I'll try to be very short and try to fit into the time schedule. Well, there is no big secret that tourism contributes a lot to the global economy, and just a few basic figures that we can find basically in all sources that it has been creating around 10% of global GDP. And the industry is really big because it reaches 9 trillion USD. And actually, talking about the employment, 1 out of 10 jobs is created in this industry. So definitely a lot of jobs are now at stake due to the pandemic that I will be discussing later on. And the industry's contribution is actually 3 times bigger than agriculture. So it is really, really a big business. And yes, this picture shows what happened, as all we know, last year in March of 2020, when all the planes had to be grounded and all the services were halted due to the COVID restrictions. And this is really the biggest crisis in history of tourism. So this is one of the reasons why I chose the topic, that the tourism industry has to change and to adapt. And yes, despite some improvements, but basically the crisis continues into the second year, because if we look at the main figures, 5 months of 2021, the international tourism arrivals went down by 85% compared to 2019. And actually it still is down even compared to 2020. And when we talk about the global business travel expenses, because business travel is also a very important part of travel, all the companies cut their business travel expenses by nearly half. So the industry really, really suffered. However, there is some optimism that I have to say, and the situation has improved slightly in the peak season of 2021. And that's basically due to successful vaccination rollouts. And we know that some countries, European Union countries like Greece, were among the first countries to be opened in the summer season of 2021, and they have lifted the travel restrictions. So the international tourism is slowly picking up, and it's getting better. However, with the domestic tourism, it has seen quite a drastic recovery, and it still is dominant in all parts of the world. So therefore, the need to transform the tourism industry is ever present, because now that scientists and governments agree that we have to learn to live with COVID, and that this virus will not probably disappear, whether it's going to be like a seasonal flu or it will be affecting us to the bigger extent. But that means that we have to adapt, and the whole industry has to adapt. But it's not only due to COVID and this crisis that the tourism industry has to adapt. It has been changing all the time. And as I said, when I came 20 years ago to this industry, so I used to work and I used to apply completely different methods. And now with the internet and low-cost airlines and the widespread possibilities to book online, this industry has been changing and will be changing. So what I want to try and stress that the need is not only because of the crisis, but we have questions, and the whole industry is asking questions. How can we rebuild travelers' confidence? How can we ensure that the travelers are back and they will travel safely and without any disturbances? And how the whole industry has to become more resilient and to reinvent itself. Who is going to win and who is going to lose in this situation? That's what I'm trying to answer. Well, if we talk about the transformation, we need to consider that the new approach is needed to the management of all industry sectors, either travel, trade, or business, or leisure travel, or destination management. And this transformation will also require some managerial skills, new leadership, and innovative methods of management. And of course, the collaboration or cooperation between industry and national governments is important here. National governments, yes, they were aiding, they were subsidizing this sector quite a lot. and it still needs to be subsidized to great extent. This is what World Tourism Organization says, that they say that vaccination combined with communication and coordination, and also by applying digital tools, can rebuild the customer's trust and will restart the tourism. So these are the words of Secretary General Zurab Pokolashvili. When talking about the transformation, of course, we all understand that digitalization and the digital transformation is one of the key factors. And in 2019, more than 40% of US travelers were booking their travel using mobile devices. The same actually trend is widespread all around the world. And this will continue, and people will be willing to use more and more digitalized tools in order to book and share their experiences. On the other hand, the safety protocols will stay, and we will have to adapt that. From time to time, there will be checks, security checks, there will be some restrictions which will be put and then probably abandoned. And so for all the industry, we will have to learn how to deal with that. And then answering to my question previously, who is going to win and who is going to lose? So destinations who will manage the low number of positive cases of this disease will be the first ones and are the first ones to benefit from returning tourist flows. And the whole industry will have to turn towards sustainability and innovation, which means that probably we will be traveling less internationally. We will take less long-haul flights and more concentrate on our neighbors and domestic travel. That's one trend. The other trend that has already started in some European countries, the revival or return of night trains. For instance, Sweden, they have already put to some routes for instance, from Gothenburg to Stockholm and further, night trains instead of flying short distances, just to be more environmentally friendly. And also from the customer perspective, it is essential to find the customer pain points, to know what really bothers the customer, so that we can return the customer back to travel and try to help them. So innovative investments just to enhance the customer experience, because in travel industry, we are basically selling experiences. And this experience is from booking the trip, from leaving home back to returning home. So this kind of investments will definitely help. Well, as to digital transformation, as I already mentioned, we will need to have more design tools for tourists to book their trips and also to be able to share their experiences online in a timely manner. And for the whole industry, the third statement here, demand for more flexibility is actually essential, because people will be planning less in advance. So it means that more last-minute bookings, more friendly cancellation terms, and higher demand for flexible tickets, which is quite a stressful thing for the whole industry. How to transform tourism industry for destinations? The destinations or destinations management organizations who are responsible for attracting tourism, they will have to work how to turn the destinations into smart tourism destinations. So smart is the key word here. And also to create new tourism products. Augmented reality, gaming approach, and also it is all aimed to strengthen or to enhance customer experience. Also, new forms of travel, like slow travel, which I will discuss in the next slide, will help to transform the tourism industry. What I mean by smooth and seamless travel is actually that we need to assist traveler not to be afraid of travel because of the restrictions, because of ever-changing border controls and checks and everything. So we need to be guiding our customer very carefully. Slow travel is an interesting new concept. It originated, actually, it's a copy of the same concept that Italians have for the slow food, which originated in 1986. then you have to enjoy your food and go to a local restaurant. So this is something similar. So basically, slow travel means that you need to go to the less traveled destinations, avoid crowded places, which is hand in hand with what the post-pandemic world wants. Also, you need to meet locals, use the public transport, and be less obsessed with everything planned and everything according to a schedule. So it's like enjoyment and taking time, which is ideal for couples and for solo travelers. That's one of the tourism transformations that I see. From the management point of view, it is essential that strong decision-making and strong leadership, and what also very matters is communication with your employees and customers. And once again, strong partnership between governments and the businesses. Another example that I want to provide here as a successful transformation of tourism is smart tourism destinations. There is the European Capital of Smart Tourism Initiative, STD, as I put here, and they say that the smart tourism destination is basically the destination which has all the tourism and hospitality products available through information communication technology tools. Also, it means a lot of sustainable things, healthy social and cultural environment, again, innovative and intelligent solutions, which at the same time fosters development of businesses and their interconnectedness. So already 9 cities in Europe have been given the title of Smart Tourism Destination. For example, the European Capital of Smart Tourism Initiative was Gothenburg in 2020, and Gothenburg in Sweden, they were really smart by creating a special digital platform for all businesses and services where people can meet and exchange what they want to rent, where they want to go. They have introduced the 3D model of the city, which is used by the citizens and also by the community planners. And Gothenburg actually is very smart by using for the heating recycled waste. 60% of Gothenburg heat comes from recycled waste. So the similar things can actually help the destinations to be more attractive for tourism. The last example that I want to share with you is actually the IT tool designed by IATA, International Air Transport Association, which unites all airlines. And this is the copy, the digital copy of the traveler's passport, which is in your mobile device. And it actually, what is very important, that with this device, you can easily travel because you can get all the updated information on the travel restrictions, on what tests, what vaccination requirements do you need by entering one or another country. It also sends the test information if you are obliged to make a COVID test. So it sends the the data of your test results to the authorities, and it can be exchanged in a safe manner. So you can securely send your test results, not being afraid that your data might be misused somewhere. And also you get the full information on the entry requirements of the country, because it is connected to the database, and you actually can check online. So having this app, you get the vaccination proof, you get the information what is your travel requirement, and you also provide everything in a contactless way. So yeah, maybe due to the time limit, I just don't want to go deep inside out to this, but the basic thing is that it's not related to one single database. It's thematic, so it means that it is sourcing the information from different databases and is protected by and compliant in compliance with customer data protection. So once again, these kind of things, these kind of smart devices can contribute to the trust and seamless and travel, which I really hope and believe will be back on track again soon. Yes, I'm about to finish. So I just want to finish on this optimistic note that any crisis can be a trigger change. We know that. So as Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, says that the hardest thing to manage is actually in a crisis not your company, it's your own thoughts. So if we deal with our own thoughts, if we deal with our own mind, then we will succeed. And I think that tourism transformation mission is possible, and it has started already. And thank you for your attention. So if I have time, so you may ask some questions.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. No, as far as I see, our time is rather limited to open a discussion. However, there were a lot of very interesting new ideas which could generate a lot of questions, I am more than sure. But I sincerely hope that in framework of coffee breaks and in framework of informal meetings, you will be able to respond that questions which will arise. And once again, congratulate for this very interesting and very holistic and comprehensive presentation on this rather very important and highly timely topic. Thank you very much. And I would like to ask our next presenter, Professor Dr. Yanis Grasis, to head his presentation on a rather important topic, the hybrid war in the past and present. Please, Yanis, we wait you and the floor is yours.
Hello, colleagues. It's my pleasure always to come to Klaipėda, but this time I am by distance. And I am using Meet Google for the first time in my life. So I will try to share my screen. Sorry. Because, okay, I have opened this file already on my screen, and I'm trying. So full screen, as I understand, yeah?
Yes.
But
We don't
I have
see
some.
it.
No, I see that it's something. Because it's like in the Zoom or MS Team. I have opened already on my screen, but when I'm trying to share, okay, I find. Probably now you are see my presentation, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
for this time, I chose this topic on the hybrid war, which is a very important topic, especially for countries like Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. And it started from this phenomena in Crimea Peninsula in 2014, when what they're calling little green man appeared suddenly without any signs on these uniforms and so and so. And at this moment, a lot of experts have said that this so-called hybrid war is something new, that we have never seen it before, and so and so. For example, already in 2015, at the NATO meeting, it was recognized that this, what they're calling hybrid war, it always will activate this so-called Article 5 of the NATO treaty. But still, some experts saying that what is a hybrid war? It's nothing concrete. What is aggression this time? And I agree that, let's say, last century we were accustomed that when some country starts a war, it was some act of declaration, then attack became, other side started to defend, and so and so. But if you really look in the history, then it seems that we are wrong on this way, because till 20th century, probably most of the wars were done in this hybrid way. For example, British lawyer Morris has calculated that, let's say, between years 700 and 1870, 107 wars started without any kind of declaration in the territory of Europe and America. It means the territory of Christianized world. And all these wars have some kind of hybrid elements. And this declaration of war became like a courtesy gesture by the states only in the First and Second World Wars. And what we're calling it nowadays hybrid war, which is just old method of warfare, and this is nothing new. And we could say that this is a new instrument, what we are using again in some cases, let's say in the history. And by the way, and I will give you just two examples. Examples from Latvia and example from Hungary. For example, events in Latvia 1940. It was also like a hybrid war, very similar what happened in Crimea in 2014. So it means it was June 15, early morning, when also persons, soldiers without any signs of belonging to some army, attacked Latvian border checkpoint. And just now we know that it was so-called NKVD troops, but let's say at that moment, it was like also in Crimea, suddenly some persons attacking some border checking point. So these two events are fully similar, what happened in Latvia in 1940 and also what happened in Crimea in 2014. Here you see with our border checkpoint in 1940 after this attack by unknown soldiers, and you see everything is burned down. Some 3 soldiers were shot down and their family members, and some of them were arrested and just taken to Russian territory. Similar case with Hungary, with the city of Kassa, now it's Košice in Slovakia nowadays. And when Adolf Hitler divided Czechoslovakia, in this moment, this Kassa was given back to the Hungary, and it was Hungarian territory at that moment. And Hungary, for a long time, hesitated to stood for Hitler in the World War II. And then what happened? On June 26, a bomber without any signs of recognition dropped bombs to city of Kassa. As I said, it's Košice, it's nowadays in Slovakia. And for this bombing, Hungarian government blamed the USSR and announced its involvement in the war. Still, there are some debates about this case, and probably I more believe it was Germans who made this bombing in order to get Hungary again on their side in the Second World War against Soviet Union at that moment, and so it means the same instruments. So soldiers, or let's say in this case bombers without any recognition signs, are taking part in some aggression and so on. In nowadays, of course, these battlefields are changing, and what they're calling also these hybrid wars, it's more and more involved by the internet, and what I'm calling here internet trolls versus internet elves. So-called troll farms are organized in a lot of countries, especially big countries like China, Russia, America, and so on. So we're waging this war in internet and giving some false information, bad comments, and so on. So also we see this very often in Latvia when, let's say, there's some automatic comments are very close with the official line with Russian position, and of course quite negative about Latvian security and development and so on and so. And then I go also now in Lithuania, we have these units, sometimes even voluntary units like internet elves, and who are struggling against these internet trolls. So these are these new battlefields during the hybrid wars, what's happening now. And of course, the latest events what's happening on the borders between Belarus, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, that something new has been invented in waging of hybrid war, that you are using some illegal immigrants and just sending to these neighboring countries. There was a lot of direct planes from Iraq to Belarus, and then under guidance of Belarus government, these illegal immigrants with tourist passports were sent to borders to cross the border and so on and so on. So it means, in this case, Belarus using these illegal immigrants in a hybrid war, describing these people as refugees who had just arrived under tourist visa to Belarus. And then we are blaming state countries for violating refugee rights and so on. So this is something new, let's say, in the history of hybrid wars. Probably something similar was before between Turkey and EU also, when the Turkish government just said that if you don't give some money, we will use these methods using some immigrants. And in this picture, I especially took one. There is no important, you see these two soldiers, it's not important to which country they belong. Is it, let's say, to Poland or to Lithuania or Latvia, situation is the same. So we see legal immigrants are used to have this hybrid war against our countries. And for example, Lithuanian interior minister even gave this information that Belarusians have these special artificial filming places where they're making these small films, small, let's say, informations, and giving, okay, let's say that, for example, in this case, that Lithuanian border guards have very cruel attitude toward these people, and so they're sending to some European TV sets, televisions, and making these information that, okay, that we are good, but okay, these Lithuanians or Latvians or Polish people are behave very badly. And you see what happens now on border between no matter Latvia, Lithuania, or Poland with Belarus. We are making this a new, let's say, wall of Cold War. There is no otherwise, let's say, measures to stop these illegal immigrants. And of course, it means that we must more and more focus on strengthening our external borders of the European Union. It's so. Okay. I tried as short as possible. If I have some time for questions, I'm ready to answer. Of course, I will submit later for the next issue of magazine Vadība, also my article. But okay, just now it's just presentation and so on. Any questions?
Dear colleagues, we wait your question. I have a question that we have a very small military science community here, and a very like Vadība, a professional journal. I have written the coordinates of this professional journal on text window. Why don't you consider to submit to us this very interesting article? We would be very happy.
No problem.
To
no
receive,
problem.
receive
If you
it.
would like,
we are open to publish also articles on military science and military policy and security issues in English. That's why all of the participants, if you feel yourself motivated to cooperate with our small military science community, you are more than welcome.
Okay, no problems. I just noticed this, and simply one my small comment, last one. Today I've spoken with some guys who have some connection with these illegal immigrants, and they told us that, okay, there's one Iraqi woman, and when she is crossing the border, she's like handicapped people, so problems to walk, you know. And for humanitarian reasons, our ambulance accepting her in this ambulance auto, you know. And what happens? She suddenly could walk. But we never realized that in all our ambulance auto, we have video recording. And after, if somebody is saying to us that, oh, you're violating rules of refugees, you know, we could show this mirror from the Bible. I remember it was one moment in the Bible when somebody was not able to walk, and then Jesus went, gave some blessing, and suddenly person started to walk, you know. The same happens on the border. When she getting to ambulance out of it, suddenly person could walk. And you know, it means that we don't need to accept her for humanitarian reason because she could normally walk. Simply she is simulating to get within EU, you know. And we could show like these fragments of such movies also for Western TV studios, you know. What happens?
Thank you very much, Professor Gassis. We wait your contribution to our journal. And our next presenter.
Zoltan, can you hear me?
Yes.
We have a slight change. Erika Stepkiene, who is in the program here, she is unable to come here physically. So she sent us a video recording. So we would like to put her at the end of the program, okay? As you go to her name.
Okay.
Yeah, and also be sure to give time for the audience to ask at least one question for those who are physically here, okay?
Excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So the floor is yours.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. We wait the questions.
Does somebody have any question?
Dear colleagues, if there is no further question, then I would like to ask our distinguished colleague, Dr. Vinogradov Sergey, to continue to take on the chairmanship and continue the activity of this section. Thank you very much, your colleague, for your kind attention and for especially for the presentators for the very high efficiency time management. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lackner. I'm glad to welcome the participants of session, and we will ask the next presenter. The next presentation will title Role of Education for Migration and Adaptation to Climate Change. And the authors of this presentation, Professor Inga Dalidiene, lecturer Indra Razbadauskaite, Venska, and associated Professor Remigius Dalide, and lecturer Tuma Mingilei. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think that it's auditory. It's half in Lithuanian, half in English, but because I think I have connections with Henry's session. A role of education in mitigation adaptation to climate change is very important today. Today we listen a lot of presentation about transport, logistics, tourism, and science, and economic green cycle, and it's all connected with humanity and climate change also. But it's very interesting because and my colleagues and Indra Razvadauskaitė, Remigius Dailidė, and Toma Mingelaitė working together in several projects that we integrated from another country, sustainable and adapting climate change in the study programs in universities. Because it's very important. Why? Because climate change in the most forcing in us day. And it's interesting, it has influence in everywhere, in science, economic, social, political. It's a problem now, it's very global, but we feel it's also in the local scale. And therefore, of course, in modern world, it's now coming very new technology that very help understanding climate change and understanding and improving new technologies everywhere. Example today with my colleagues explaining about tourism, it was very interesting because it's really changed also tourism, which in industry, which technological possibility, because people now it's very smart everywhere. But from another hand, rising people, it's destroy world, natural world. It's problem again. And therefore, the global climate emergency has begun, and now the time for everyone, including high schools, university, to become global leaders in the front against climate change and committing time self to training students to prepare humanity for mitigation, the effect of future wave. You know that we feel it every summer. Example in Lithuania also, heat wave, as colleagues, example, and in Germany, yesterday I listened to feel hurricanes. It's not usually in Germany every day see this phenomena. It's usually in United States and so on. Through fire, air shake, floods, air pollution, rising carbon, also COVID, it's linked to the climate change. Why? Because climate change, it was very interesting. Before that, I'm example, I'm physical person more, and usually 10 years ago, explaining my student, no, it's human, it's not affected. It's affected nature, because it's Milankovitch theory, it's changed because it's astronomic effect, it's sun cycle effect. But today we feel that growing humanity activity, it's really not very friendly for the earth. And therefore, of course, it's needed priority to change our life that was friendly for the nature. The main activity of university contribute to climate change mitigation and are really related to the main missions of university to teach, to explaining, to educate, and to provide knowledge not only students but also in society. And therefore, thank you for this conference, because it's again possibility to share with you this information. And shortly planning in the future with colleagues improve more subject in the study program also, and more inform people around it. I hope you know that the best company in the world in the government panel on climate change. This community have a lot of scientists. They present results of climate change, and also they made forecast in the future. And this forecast not it's very good for the earth, because we feel warming in this change already. And now we're thinking that maybe warming could reach 1.5 Celsius degrees. It's very soon. It's as we feel it 2030. Of course, if it continue rising, continue warming, it's going to reach 4 Celsius degrees. This is very risk for the world. Why? Because very big change gradients influence extreme situation in the nature. Sometimes, and therefore you go to feel and visually now that we have less ice in the Curonian Lagoon, in the Baltic Sea, but we have less ice cover in the Antarctic. In Antarctic, it's very dangerous. Why dangerous? Because albedo of the Earth, it's not friendly for us for that, and its warming rise more quickly without this effect of the albedo of the greenhouse effect. It's rising now. And although these pictures are like, because usually it's very I'm sorry, was a little bit problem with internet, because a lot of people now it's looking. I'm sorry, Sergey, it's a little bit. Now we listen. Kitą kartelę reikės atsinešti. Nieko, man tas gerai, man šitas irgi gerai, suprantu, kad jie mato. Ai, tada negerai. Okay, it's a little bit more information. I hope you know this world map of Köppen-Geiger climate classification. Usually I use in the presentation because it's very good forecast for the future in the 21st century. It's very good present that in the North Hemisphere of the world have biggest change, like we're looking in south. And also it changes its meaning that it's needed to change in economy, in tourism, in the land use, it's very connected with health, people, and of course not only with humanity, but also with nature. they are a little bit from the theory that the climate system and climate is not understandable only like its nature, because in today we see that human activity, it's part of climate system also. Because, example, there you see that hydrology, meteorology connected with water balance and with greenhouse affected. But pollution of people, the users, like not very friendly users, it's now we feel that very connected with rise of carbon in atmosphere, with atmospheric pollution, and change forest and change water resource. And therefore, sometimes only users not understanding that they to do. Today, it's very, very for the universities and for the researchers good time that new technology coming in the science. And there I present several examples. The World Meteorological Organization use satellite image for the observation of the Earth. And now we have very good program Copernicus. I don't know, you know or not, but Copernicus, it's very friendly for the users, because get a lot of data from the satellite image and satellite data. It is possible to look, example, and with mobile telephone and look where people communicate. It's possible to see pollution. It's possible to see forest change, agricultural change. This epoch, it's very good, but from another hand, needed to teach this knowledge. It needed to be to front in universities and high schools also, because it needed to study a new technique and new possible to integrate in the not only young people, but in the oldest people also. Because new technology coming, it's very quickly, but sometimes we feel that people didn't know that they haven't experienced to use. And again, also, it's university, it's needed to be informed for that. Climate change, I present, it's not only global and local. There it's research results from the Lithuanian part of the Baltic Sea. The Southeastern Baltic Sea climate show that air temperature very drastically changed during the start of the last century, and air temperature, sea surface temperature, example, now it's increased approximately 1 Celsius degrees. If I told you 1 Celsius is nothing, but it's nothing if you're looking in average. But if you're thinking from the global view, example, ice time is starting when average world temperature it's mean only 11-12. Now today it's 50 Celsius degrees. It's meaning that in the global 1 Celsius degree it's very important. And we feel it in summertime. We have an ice example in us region. The example ice cover in the Southern Baltic Sea, in Curonian Lagoon. And now we have 1 month less of the ice cover in Curonian Lagoon. Curonian Lagoon, it's shallow and very big lagoon, because I hope you know that the biggest lagoon in Europe. And therefore, it's very interesting for the study, and sometimes scientists told that it's like similar like Baltic Sea. Baltic Sea like it's estuarian because it's very close, very shallow, have only 50 meters depth average, and Curonian Lagoon and so very shallow, very close, and very eutrophicated, also like in Baltic Sea. And therefore, of course, we talked again about climate change, about sea level rise. Example, sea level rise, I think it's very interesting for the students if you're looking from economy point, if you're looking from the tourism, future needed to think about building. Why? Because, example, if you're looking only in Baltic Sea southeastern part, And we see that it's very connected with North Atlantic oscillation, with atmospheric dynamic. But from another hand, 20 centimeters in shallow coastline, it's very dangerous. Example, we feel now what there is several people I see in this auditorium from the Klaipėda, so they know that during the storm, sometimes we observed water in the downtown of the Klaipėda. And it could be often in the future, because you see that in Curonian Lagoon, in near Baltiisk and in Zingsboden, it's a little bit different, but we have now indicated that sea level rise it's about average 20 centimeters from the last century. Of course, it's changed and shift everywhere. It's only we present with my colleagues several examples, but this very connected also with social vulnerability to climate change. Why? What problems are connected with the climate change? It's flood, example, coast erosions, coastal risk, offshore destruction, the saltwater flooding in Curonian Lagoon. It's very connected with fish, with navigation, because I think that today was from the Port Authority, they thinking about blue economy, about green port, but it's every time reconstruction of the Klaipėda Strait via seaport, it's every time needed to thinking about climate change effect. What could be connection with Curonian Lagoon, saltwater intrusions, and its depth, it's okay or not, it's all needed to building or needed to destroy coastal construction, and so on. And therefore, it's now, I feel that when we discussion about economy, about port, they invited also from different specialization people, because needed together economists, together environment, together climatologists and hydrologists. There you see that example in Klaipėda simulation and different situation with flood. Then we could see in 21st century, according to pessimistic and optimistic forecast, and we could to tell people that it's needed to think where you're living, because people in Klaipėda near Danė, if living close with Danė river, we feel that it's very dangerous. It could be needed to think about insurance and so on, because this PhD student Čepienė now it's present very interesting research about it, and could be present more about it. But really, I hope in the near future, and I see in European different directives, that they would like to stop buildings near rivers, and because it's dangerous, because 20 years we didn't see it, and now in the future it needed to think about it. I very shortly, we would like with my colleagues speak a lot of, because it's social vulnerability to the climate change. It's very connected not only with sea level rise, it's of course with food, with increasing mitigation also, with conflict also, but Jan present before me, it's also connected to climate change. Because climate change, where it's very bad condition, people migration from that. It's not only war. And we said it from the historical of the earth, the same situation. And therefore, for us, it was very good news that Lithuanian universities also created same communicate. agreement between Lithuanian University on the climate change. And we talked about that and explaining people that the academic community is now very concerned about the climate change. Of course, thinking and creating new ideas in the shape and implemented political green, blue economic decisions. And we provide join the European initiative and ambition to become the first climate neutrality continent in Europe. It's Green Europe. And we discussion about Green Lithuania, and about Green Klaipėda, about Green Port also. And now it's very new information. I recommend to looking more in European Green Deal information documentation, because the European Commission proposed transform Europe economy and society to meet climate ambitions. And until 2030, no net greenhouse gas emissions, economic growing will be decoupled from resource, no be left out than 1%, and no area of the world. But you know, and sometimes people don't know about it, and they not understand it. Why for us need to buy a different car? Why we could not to traveling by plane short distance? But if really it's coming, it's directive coming. Because for me was surprise too. 1 week ago, I listened to environment minister and think, why they close short distance by airplane? But I looking in directive and they explaining it. It's coming because it's air pollution. It's needed to stop it. It's possible to change electric train or by car and so on. And it's interesting at this point that needed to start from the ourselves to change the world. And the European Green Course have its very strong guidelines for the whole community, and so for the university too. Of course, and for that, Europe will plan to get very good finance for that, and the European Green Deal will improve in the fresh air, with energy, renovated health, food, more public transport, longer lasting production. You go to see all in the European Green Deal documentation, because European Green Deal it's step by step coming with the high schools study also, because was needed transform too, because it's needed to look, but it's needed to knowledge now in nowadays. But it's really very, very big changes it's coming. And of course, for us, it's needed to think about new transport, about new possibility, energy to use, not fail. Europe will reduce this net greenhouse gas emission by at least 55% by 2030. It's very big ambitions. It's very big ambition. It's meaning that needed to start now, today, and this hour, because it's not a lot of time for the transforming economy, because it's needed to talk with stakeholders, it's needed to talk with everyone. Of course, about 30% in Europe planning to go to the climate change, to the COVID also, to the European, you go to see it's very new documentation. It started in 2021 in July only. And how can university contribute to continue climate mitigation? I think the first needed integrated climate change topics about adapt, about mitigation, about sustainability, about blue economy, green economy in the study process. And also, I think that I would like to finish with my colleagues, you know, that we have only one Earth. The Earth is our only home. We haven't now Mars or Venera. It's only Earth. It's very small. It's very, very sensible and very nice. But from another hand, role of education for mitigation, adaptation to climate change, to integrate knowledge about climate change into study program in all fields of studies, educate the public, integrate IT and new technology in environment-friendly way. It's topic high school now. Because climate affected all, economy, geomorphology, and also it's needed to adapt that. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, your interesting presentation. And now we can provide dear participants with the opportunity to take questions.
Okay, I will ask one question to my colleague. I have been always very green thinking, but still, I have one question to you. Maybe also we need to reduce birth rate in some regions and some countries. What is your opinion on this? Because let's say for Europe, for Lithuania, for Latvia, for Hungary, probably birth rate is too low. But in some regions, this birth rate is not regulated. So maybe also we need to regulate this number of people in some countries and in some regions.
Yanis, you're thinking that it's topic, it's very connected with us country also?
It's connected with Europe in this case because these people who are looking for better life comes to Europe.
Yeah, because
and of course their economies cannot feed them, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe we must also reduce birth rate in some regions and some countries to avoid any of these problems what we are discussing now.
Yeah,
believe me, I'm always pro-green, let's say. Yeah, I have been always in my life, but still, you know.
Thank you, Yanis, for the question and for the discussion, because it's really very connected with your presentation also, because you know that climate change connected with people mitigation, with sometimes with work together, because people would like to live better, but from another hand, it's not very easy. It's very connected with economy also. And therefore, I think, therefore now everywhere it's needed to knowledge multidisciplinarity. Example, I hope that you could very help for me explaining this phenomena, why people move. But from the environment point of view, I thought, yes, it's in Lithuania now it's better climate for the living. Example, people from the south. It's true because we have season. Summer it's longer and winter not, it's very cold. But from another hand, we're looking in it. Thank you for that.
Hello everyone, maybe I have one question for the dear professor. You presented very well the active situation and you said several times that future looks dangerous. Your opinion, just your opinion, how do you think? Are we enough responsible as humans, as people, that we will save the earth? Do you really think that this degree of 1.5, which is dangerous to the earth, it will be reached? Or we can do something and we are doing something? So just your opinion, what will it be in the nearest future? But the scientists are talking that what it will be.
Thank you for the question. You know, in my opinion, it's really dangerous because it's very connected. High temperature, it shows pollution of the air also. because you're looking, now we use mask for the COVID, but next time maybe we will use mask for the air pollution. It's coming so much also, maybe coming allergy. And we feel that people, example, more and more feel allergy because climate change, and we have, example, blooming that it not for us, it's normally. But it's dangerous. Why? Because the climate, it's changed us life and very quickly. An example maybe for you and for the people in Lithuania, 30 degrees in Latvia also, and this middle climatical zone, it's very big, it's not good. We have a lot of example that problem with heart, with ills different. But dangerous, it's in other hand, dangerous for the flood of the water from the sea. It's really dangerous if we're not looking in the construction, it's very quickly coming. Also dangerous, but from another hand, it's needed adapt, it's needed information, it's needed use IT technology for that. I think that is possible to adapt it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The next presentation titled Legal Regulation of Seafarers' Access to Social Security Protection in Lithuania. And I would like to invite Associated Professor Erika Statkiene. Please, the floor is yours.
Dear Sergey, Kiana is not present here. She has sent us video recording. We will play it at the end. So please, the next presenter, okay?
Okay, thank you. The next presentation will be about a real estate market value and its special dependency at city scale. And the authors, Thomas Skripienas and Professor Valentinas Navickas. Please take your presentation.
Okay. Hello, everybody, one more time. I'm Thomas Skripienas from Kaunas University of Technology, and here's our presentation together with Professor Valentinas Navickas. So the topic is real estate market value and its spatial dependency at city scale. So the research is in the field of economics, so I hope you will find it interesting. The scientific problem is how important is the spatial dependency of real estate market value at the city scale. And the object of research then is the variance across space of real estate market value at city scale. So I want to fill the research gap between the research on real estate market value of microdata, which is usually time series over time, and the research on real estate market value spatial dependency at the micro scale, which is, let's say, inside a city. And this spatial dependency is usually used as a control variable in many economic models, macroeconomic models. However, it becomes really a core ingredient and core determinant if you look at the micro scale. And yeah, I have this quite fun animation on the side, but I just wanted to show it because while you can see it's moving in time and it has this ups and downs, which is like cycles of the real estate market value. Supposedly this is the market value diagram, but at the same time it has these waves on surface on the x and y axis, which says that it's actually spatially dependent, those cycles and the movement. Therefore, the aim of this research is to measure real estate market value variance across space and the city scale that is not captured and seen in this micro data. So This research actually is part of a broader context, which is my PhD thesis. The topic of that is the influence of architecture on real estate market value, and to put it to position this research in the broader context, I just want to go briefly through the theoretical background where it originated. So from my thesis, there's two objectives that's relevant in the context of this research was that I wanted to develop a theoretical framework of the interrelationships between architecture and real estate market value. And then I wanted to develop a model for measuring the impact of architectural variables on spatial dependency of real estate market value. So while doing that, I have come up with a theoretical framework of this interrelationship between architecture and market value. And the main idea behind this framework is that while some value is transferred directly to the market value or exchange value from the built environment, other part of value goes the other way, and it's actually goes through this non-market public outcomes like image, social, environmental, or cultural, and then modifies the market value. And this framework was created to show the significance of a spatial dependency, because the built environment changes over space, across space, and at the same time the market value change across space. And measuring the variance across space would illustrate the existence of this model. And another theoretical model that I try to build my argument on is this very simple supply and demand model. Because real estate is very slow to react, and it's very unique, has unique properties, real estate actually we can say that never reached the actual equilibrium price, but it's always moving towards that. But it bounces up and down, and therefore there's always an upper or lower market bubble. But the main idea behind why I'm showing you this is that you can think about this model over time, which is usual, that we see that the price is higher than it should be or lower, but at the same time you can think about this model across space, because the demand and supply, which are main determinants here, are not global for real estate. They are rather more local. Therefore the bubbles, they are over time, but at the same time they are place specific. The particular place has its own business, own real estate cycle. Therefore, if we look at this is a graph of showing the Lithuanian apartment price index created by Albert House. But if you look at this, we can clearly see the cycles or bubbles change over time. But at the same time, every point here, what I want to say, sort of hides the further variance across space. So to conclude on this theoretical part, I wanted to show that to study the market value of real estate, we should include at least like 5 or even more dimensions to it. So the one I will focus on further on my presentation is the variance across space. But again, there could be a variance across segments, which I will not be talking about. And of course, the volatility over time, which is known for a long time. So going back to the actual research of this presentation, I was working with the apartment market value. Here you can see an example of Vilnius, but it was done also in Kaunas. And I took this is so-called unexplained variance across space. because the selected apartments were supposed to be homogeneous, ones that you should be able to compare. And we were, because we are all newly constructed. They all partly finished, and then apartments with unique properties were eliminated, like with terraces or something. So they're supposed to be same price, but it's not. But then I decided to take a deeper look into that. I was looking at the control variables that can cause this variance. This, for example, is like floor size, neighborhood location. It could be even more. So these are the graphs that show the relation between the selected control variable, let's say floor here, and the price per square meter, which is in relative numbers. And you can see that like it changes with this selected variable, the price changes, meaning that the upper floor apartments are more expensive, which is kind of clear. And then the result of this research resulted in a 3D diagram of apartment market value, where the market value is actually adjusted for all those controls. And you can see the relative price differences across space. To be precise, in this picture, it's a case of Vilnius. And yeah, there's like coefficients how much the price is bigger because of the unexplained reasons in a particular place or situation in Vilnius. And to conclude about this research, there was up to 39% of unexplained variance of apartments market value. However, there were quite significant differences between Vilnius and Kaunas. While Vilnius, the standard deviation of this residualized market value was nearly 1,000, and this big coefficient of variance, the Kaunas number was smaller. Coefficient of variance was 20%. And then, yeah, these were quite interesting results, but however, they raised even more discussion, I guess. So I just wanted to mention a few things. For example, there was this question for myself about space versus location. I will use the term variance across space. So I try to differentiate what is the space and what is the location. So the space is something that's created by the built environment. And it could be changed, and it changes over time. While the location is something that's given, you cannot change your location of an apartment. And yeah, the space is created by architecture. Location is just given, and I want to control for the location to eliminate the factor that apartments in the center are more expensive. But I want to measure the changes across space. Another thing, of course, the better control for the neighborhood is definitely a way to improve this research. But that's a big problem to collect the data, because you can find a lot of measures for the neighborhood, like many social numbers or other things, the number of green areas or the number of pollutions and many things, but it's difficult to gather all this data in a city scale. It's granular data enough to perform such a research. Of course, I can also mention this, there are definitely omitted variables. One of them, for example, could be the segmentation, which I already mentioned a little bit, but it was not controlled for in this research. This is, for example, that a bigger apartment might be more expensive if you look at the price per square meter, just because it's a different segment if you compare it to small apartments. And then the people who buy it might be more rich, more wealthy. Therefore, that might be not the architecture itself, but just the buyer could be the reason that it's more expensive. So that's further point for discussion. So at the end, I'm looking forward if somebody has any questions about that.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Thomas, for the presentation. That's interesting. You started out about why today the markets price. Not only that it's interesting, where it's better, but why rise from economical point of view and so on?
Yeah, it's maybe, yeah, I just wanted to mention one more thing that, I was showing this like dimensions of real estate. So I kind of eliminated the volatility over time out of my research because I was interested in the variance across space. Of course, this could be combined later on if I would be able to have final data together with time. So I was not really interested in how the prices are changing over time, but I was just interested in how the prices are changing inside the city at a fixed time. And I'm just comparing the relative price. Therefore, I'm not interested about this actual level of prices. But try to answer your question about this. There is a quite, for example, this Vilnius, and so you're gonna see Vilnius here, but it covers all this area of main part of Vilnius, and the idea behind this is that there's kind of spatial bubbles in Vilnius, and I think it goes together with the temporal effect as well. That some areas are really has a lot of development now at the moment, whereas new architecture or new buildings appearing and many infrastructure. I mean infrastructure mostly for like pathways and something for cycling, etc. Everything is improving in particular areas. Therefore, not only the macroeconomic factors are increasing the price, but also the development inside the city is also making these spatial bubbles of real estate. But that's interesting. But the price, from my point of view, the changes and the increase in price is not global for the whole city. It's more prominent in particular areas of the city.
Thank you. Thank you. And Thomas, you were treated us for the discussion. So I just would like to clarify some aspects in some questions. In several slides, you mentioned that it's very important time, depending on time. So I skipped here, what is the period of research? Because you know, when financial crisis, one situation is mentioned, bubbles.
It's the data was collected this year, 2021. But it is all new construction in the apartments and new buildings, and it was collected during like 2 weeks period. Therefore, I'm just taking a fixed moment in time and comparing the prices inside the city. Therefore, and then if you look here, it means that at green area we have something like 0.8 and 1. It's like the mean value, and then other prices. I'm just showing that it's bigger. The price here, let's say red, it's 1.6 and 1.8 times bigger. So I'm not showing the actual price. Although, there was one slide that shows the actual price, but I'm actually not interested whether this is 2,500 or it could be even more. But I'm interested how the price differs across the apartments. But as I said, the data is collected during 2 weeks period. So I'm assuming that there were no temporal effects in this temporal changes in price in these 2 weeks. I mean, I'm eliminating this time factor.
Help me understand that in the different stages, the results would be different.
Yes,
so like
yes.
smaller towns, it will be the opposite.
Yeah, it's I did it for Klaipėda as well, but Klaipėda actually has, well, I kind of took it out because there were less than 100 apartments on offer, because I selected the apartments quite rigorously. I analyzed every apartment that it should be as much comparable to each other as possible. It's all newly constructed, partly finished. It should not have like a significantly bigger terrace or some unique view or something. Because otherwise I would need to control of that, because that apartment would be more expensive because it, I don't know, oversees the sea or something. So it would definitely be more expensive because of that. I'm not controlling for that, so I eliminated that. So in the smaller cities, there were not enough data from my point of view to get this kind of result. But Vilnius and Kaunas has big differences. So this means that inside Vilnius, the price of, let's say, least expensive apartment and most expensive is like 2 times bigger than in Kaunas. If you look at this coefficient of variance, yeah, basically, and so Vilnius has majorly Vilnius has a segment of very expensive apartment which increases this, while Kaunas has less amplitude in the price. So there's this difference between the cities.
And the last one I noticed, just it was interesting about the space, you mentioned the influence of architecture. What do you mean? Later you talk about space, neighborhood. So architecture, what is the influence?
Yeah, that came up from my PhD thesis, and that's a very broad name here. But I'm trying to, in the thesis, I'm trying to come up with architectural variables that could be treated as factors for these price differences. And then to name these architectural variables, then I'm then dividing them into the urban planning variables, then urban design variables, and then building design variables, and then it could be even interior design variables. And then, so these are like the groups. And then we can go to one of them, let's urban design variable. Let's say it could be the area of a green space. It could be the type of the buildings. It could be the height of buildings. All these different variables that could influence the price.
Okay, thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you.
And one question. About a follow-up question. Could you say which situation in real estate market is more dangerous for economy? When demand is higher than supply or opposite situation? Your opinion.
It's a difficult question actually, because I would say it's kind of equal, because the real estate it's very difficult to, it's very slow to control the supply. The supply is super slow. You cannot like build buildings in less than a year or something, like huge amount of buildings. And the demand at the same time is very slow to react, because people are not moving to our city very easily. So I guess I'm still thinking, but yeah, the supply is, if the supply is lower, it could be worse, I guess. But I don't think for the economy, I think it's equally good or bad. It just has like unique consequences.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We should improve the quality of time management. I would like to ask next colleague, lecturer Simona Makaluinete, to hold your presentation, the presentation titled The Awareness and Participation of Youth is Sustainable Tourism a theoretical perspective. Please hold your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will try to make short and brief presentation, and today we are talking a lot about sustainability, about climate change, and my presentation is also a little bit connected to all of this. So the COVID-19 pandemic presupposed the need to transform tourism by focusing on sustainability aspects in tourism development. There is a visible need to increase the awareness and participation of young people in the implementation of the principles of sustainable tourism and the importance of young people in rebuilding tourism after a pandemic. And I saw that especially young people can be very useful and to create a new beginning and help for climate, to stop climate changing if they will use sustainable principles. And the World Tourism Organization and the United Nations see young people as a key force in promoting sustainable tourism. Nevertheless, research shows that the participation of young people in the implementation of the principles of sustainable tourism still lack more attention. So I would like to start from what is participation, and Lawrence Claes and John Kreil states that participation is a process in which two or more parties influence each other's decision-making. Each individual member has equal power to determine the outcome of decisions. Also, participation is described as a process in which children and young youth engage in social and political processes and its institutions. And Lithuania also tries to promote in participation the young people, and we have Active Youth Association, which before the trip advises, not only for young people, but also everyone can use these advices, is to choose a trip by bus and train, pick up less luggage, choose longer trips with less flights, do not print the ticket, travel on greener airlines, choose direct flights, remember to turn off electrical appliances at home, and if it's possible, compensate for the CO2 footprint. Maybe not everyone knows, but when you fly with a plane, you can choose to pay for your CO2 footprint. For example, 20, 30 euro, you can pay extra. And during the trip, Active Youth Association advises use disposable or larger water bottles, do not use plastic bags, straws. Do not buy coffee to take away, better to drink it at a place. If you buy, try to buy only locally made products and souvenirs. Clean up the local beach and encourage others to join. Don't leave any rubbish on the beach. Use phone apps instead of flyers or booklets. Rent a bike, use public transport. If you need to rent a car, try to rent a hybrid or electric car. Use towels and bed linen for more than one day. And remember to turn off lights and other appliances when leaving home, and drink tap water if it's possible at the place. So I'm talking about sustainable tourism, but what is sustainable tourism? The European Commission has identified sustainable tourism as any form of development, improvement, or tourism activity that respects the environment, preserves in the long term the natural and cultural resources, and it's social and economical, durable, and equitable. The World Tourism Organization defines sustainable tourism as tourism that takes full account of its current and future economic, social, and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, and environmental and host communities. If you travel sustainable, you need to leave as much less footprints as possible. Just make everything greener and don't disturb environment. And there are three dimensions of sustainable tourism, as you can see: economic, environmental, and social dimension. And each of dimension, I will explain. So environmental dimension is to make optimal use of environmental resources, which are a key element in the development of tourism by maintaining essential ecological processes and helping to preserve a natural heritage and biodiversity. Social and cultural dimensions respect authenticity of host communities, preserve, rebuild, and living cultural heritage and traditional values, and contribute to intercultural understanding and tolerance. Also, if you are traveling at the place, as I mentioned, you need to respect their culture, their living, and if it's possible, to buy products from the place. Also to respect their culture. And economic dimension is ensuring a long-term economic perspective by providing socio-economic benefits to all fairly distributed stakeholders, including stable employment and income opportunities and social host communities, and contributing to poverty reduction. And I made a semi-structured interview to reveal ways to encourage and motivate young people to participate more actively, to travel and live sustainable. And it was asked 6 informants who work in tourism, communication, or youth employment areas and have more than 5 years of experience. So here is a short answers from my informants. And in beginning, I tried to ask, is there enough information about sustainable tourism? And some informants told that there is unclear presentation of information and there is a lack of information. So some of them told that there is a lot of information on the internet, but it's not easy to find and it's not understandable for young people. Informants told that information should be more understandable and should be written in more easy language. And others told that there is a lack of information and the concept of sustainable tourism is not clear for young people. Education. I asked how we could educate young people about sustainability, about sustainable tourism. And informants told that now the most influence for young people giving influencers, and influencers could take that work and talk more about sustainability, about sustainable life, and form opinion about that. Also, municipalities could hire influencers to spread the messages of sustainable tourism ideas to their followers. Also, television, videos, talking, famous people, everything could send the message to the young people about sustainability. Also, many informants told that sustainable tourism should be in education and training programs, that educational institutions, general education programs, higher education institutions should include sustainable tourism in the curriculum. And everything should be presented in plain and understandable language. Also, we should start to teach about sustainability from very early days in kindergartens, schools, youth organizations, that people from small age would hear that word, they would understand the principles of sustainability and would that would be easy for them to live sustainable every day. And I wanted to know what informants think, how we could motivate people to live and act sustainable. And many informants told that it's a long-term process. Everything should start from family, as I mentioned, from the very early days. And also involvement requires outside help. It's unlikely that young people would start to act sustainable by their own. They need a push from outside. And also projects, plans, trips, camps would educate them and would make stronger motivation for sustainability. And could be a big marketing company would also be aware of the problem, would show the problem, and they would encourage the citizens and young people to act sustainable, and they would involve in making difference. And so studies show the lack of information on sustainable tourism. The concept is not clear for young people, and the information available on the internet is redundant or completely unclear. Information should be disseminated through influencers, television, videos, and other available channels. There is a great need for educational institutions to be involved in education about sustainable tourism, and there is a visible need to include sustainable tourism in curricula. Also, there is a need to develop young people's self-awareness and promote motivational participation of young people in the implementation of the principles of sustainable tourism through various events, projects, volunteering organizations, lectures, and seminars. And some recommendations is to prioritize sustainable tourism in the context of other branches of tourism, and to focus the subsequent 10 steps of sustainable tourism development on the promotion of young participation in the implementation of sustainable tourism goals, to promote youth policy, to work with young people on the topics of sustainability, to promote the participation of young people in decision making, to provide an opportunity for education and self-realization. Also, it is recommended to motivate and encourage tourist areas and tourists to travel sustainable, to provide them information on the benefits of sustainable tourism, the harms of unsustainable tourism, to provide a list of sustainable tourism routes, sustainably certificated hotels, and to promote nature and rural tourism. Also, to spread the ideas of sustainable tourism more widely, to try to involve young people by organizing various events and actions in their cities. And it's also a recommendation to create a sustainable tourist area to promote water and electricity saving, sorting, to encourage customers to behave in sustainable way, to buy local products from the population, and also to collaborate with the local community, involve them in local tourist development and decision making. And thank you for your attention, and I hope that everyone will travel and act sustainable in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Dear participants, you can take your questions.
Okay, thank you for the nice presentation. I wanted to listen and thinking you, why only young people? And I don't know, I decide okay or not, but I think it maybe young people don't think about the future. Why it's needed more young people? Because sometimes all these people think of the advantage for the environment and not to say that yes.
Yes, I made this research for young people, but of course we need to talk for everyone about this,
But the beginning starts from young people. They will grow up and they will not need to, I hope that in the future we will not need to explain them that you need to pick up rubbishes. It will be normal to put it to rubbish box and not to leave, not to, for example, now it's very much popular for young people also and for all people to fly to another country for 1 or 2 days just to drink coffee somewhere. For example, I want to fly tomorrow to France to drink coffee by sitting and moving to Eiffel Tower. And it should be normal for everyone to understand that it's not good, that it's better to choose longer trips. And I don't know if I answered your question. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dear participants, I would like to invite the next speaker, Associate Professor Kristina Pulaikienė, to hold your presentation, which titled Capital Structure Formation Decisions and their impact on the company's value, evidence in the maritime sector. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Sergey. It's nice to hear you. It's nice to see you. I would like to present my topic about corporate finance. And actually, I'm looking to the audience and I can understand that you are experts from another parts, from another side. But I think that it would be interesting for you too, because evidence is from maritime sector. And today, maritime sector is very popular from plenary session, especially for our region. So again, I think that you will find something interesting for you. So first of all, let me introduce the relevance. Economic financial crisis and pandemics affecting the global world and individual countries have a significant impact on business and its results too, not only on the earth or on the country, but on the business too. In today's market economy, making economically appropriate decisions about the structure of financing sources is one of the most important challenges for business, because the capital structure decisions depend on the company's ability to maximize return, effectively manage risk, successfully operate in competitive environment to meet the needs of various stakeholders. Many company stakeholders are interested in maximizing company value. The scientific literature primarily emphasizes the company owners, shareholders, creditors, and other investors. However, there is a growing part of research showing that companies are interested in the activities and that a society whose approach to the reputation a company creates could have an impact on the value of the company. And why the maritime sector? This sector is strategically important and economically significant for the country. Companies in this sector make a significant socio-economic contribution on a national scale. The formation of a capital structure in companies in the maritime sector is subject to certain distinctions, as companies in the sector require a large amount of borrowed capital. Increasing the value of companies in the maritime sector would have a positive impact both nationally and internationally. So very shortly, the aim of the research is to find and argue possible capital structure formation solutions that maximize companies' value after analyzing the concepts of capital structure formation and companies' value dependence. First of all, I would like shortly present theoretical aspects. Here you can see a conception of capital structure, which is very popular maybe for 50 years. That capital structure is a combination of equity and borrowed capital, which the company uses to the finance its activity. But in nowadays, I would like to spread this definition. In my opinion, it is too narrow, and I'm understanding the capital structure as the creation of means and methods of formation of a combination of borrowed capital and equity, ensuring that the decisions taken in the company increase the value of the company via the improvement of the company activity, striving towards positive impact on the company, sector, public, and the country. Here you can see the conceptual model for capital structure factors, formation, and how it can have impact on the company's value. So as can be seen in the process of the capital structure formation, the main theories of capital structure emerge, which show the principle on the basis of which managers make decisions on capital structure formation. The importance of capital structure theories is also significant in the context that they help to single out the factors that may influence the choice of capital structure. The higher part of borrowed capital in capital structure, the higher the leverage and the higher the risk. The cost of capital employed, it is important to the company's operation. However, if leverage is too high, it will increase the cost of both equity and borrowed capital. The impact of a capital structure on a company value can vary. By identifying the significant impact of the capital structure on the value of the company, it is possible to find a level of capital structure that will increase the value of the company in the maritime sector. So based on this model, the empirical research identifies capital structure measurements and identifies internal and external factors relevant to the formation of the capital structure for maritime business. Measurements of company value were also identified, and a model of the impact of capital structure on the value of a company was presented. And here you can see even green finance, yes, on the top. Today you heard about green port. So in the finance, we have categorization and green finance and even climate finance, because in corporate finance, it plays a huge role too. In order to achieve the complexity of the capital structure of maritime companies, the empirical study was conducted in two stages. First, the influence of endogenous and exogenous factors on the capital structure was determined. Second, the impact of the capital structure on the value of the company is analyzed to determine what level of the capital structure would maximize the value of the company in the maritime sector. Here I will shortly present four hypotheses. Two first hypothesis is related with the different internal factors on capital structure formation. The third one is related with macro situation. And the last one states that growth in the share of borrowed capital can have both marginal negative and marginal positive effect on company value. Of course, in the literature, there are a lot of indicators how we can measure capital structure, value, and other variables. So maybe I will present very shortly that based on the arguments of the scientific concepts set out, all debts will be included in the analysis of the capital structure of companies in the maritime sector. Also taking into account the specific of the sector, when high value fixed asset of companies are financed by long-term debt, empirical measurements will include not only the overall debt ratio, but also the long-term debt ratio. So it was three measurements of capital structure. Company value was measured as the Tobin's Q coefficient. Here you can see endogenous factors as company size, growth of the company, tangibility, profitability, liquidity, risk, and non-debt tax shield. And the second one is related with macro situation, and economic as GDP, inflation, interest rate, with geopolitical situation as open trade openness, social aspects of productivity, very specific variables, let's say as port infrastructure quality index, political situation as political stability index, and even it was factor related with environment is environmental and resource productivity. In order to analyze what effect the capital structure has on value of the company, capital structure factors are also included. So again, there are some factors that influence the formation of capital structure. And the same part of the factors could be that have influence on the value of the company. So endogenous and exogenous factors influencing capital structure are reflected in these regression equations, which include, as I mentioned, 3 different measurements of capital structure. And actually, I tried in my research 3 measurements of profitability. Maybe you saw in the slide, in the previous slide. And the analysis of the impact of the capital structure on the value of the company will seek to determine the extent to which the part of debt in the capital structure increase the value of the company, including the capital structure factors discussed before. Several times I mentioned that maritime sector has specific nature. So just very shortly, because you can see these all features, let's say that it's very globalized industry. Industry sensitive to fuel cost. It is big volume of financing. It has higher leverage ratio and higher financial risk. And segments of maritime on business, they could be rather different, but my attention is to the first 2, ports and shipping and shipbuilding and repair. It was more than 200 companies because I need financial data. So I need to know everything about this company from inside. I took data from Bloomberg. It was 10 years, and I mentioned that this sector is the most important for me. So here, actually, you can see that really, when we are analyzing the companies from Western and Europe, Western and Eastern Europe countries, the real situation is the same, that the biggest part in the structure, it is borrowed capital. But this part is bigger in the Western Europe companies. Why? Because this research showed that the cost of capital in Western Europe countries is cheaper. In Eastern Europe, the capital cost is higher. I will present several models. Actually, it was 9 models. First of all, given the non-linearity of the relationships of some variables were squared, others were logarithmed. In this way, the first initial models were specified. The analysis of the obtained results shows very clearly concentration due to the influence of endogenous factors of the capital structure. Influence is showing by these stars. And I used Gretel program, and actually macro factors is showing that some factors even have not influence on the capital structure. What I should check in the future, it is possible that macro factors have a lagging effect. Let's say that economic situation, it's now, today, but the effect will be on the business a little bit later. So here you can see some models where dependent variable is debt to asset ratio, and as you see on the end, it's different profitability measures. Here it is dependent variable, the ratio of long-term debt to assets, and here debt to equity. So all these results I put to the table for checking hypothesis, and you can see what it was expected in my hypothesis, what I bought, what is obtained effect. And when I get these results, I compare them with the situation according to which capital theory the companies in the maritime sectors are making financing decisions. And the results show that the first hypothesis is confirmed. And when I compared obtained results with the capital structure theories, these theories were in my conceptual model. So the obtained results show that when making capital structure formation decisions in maritime companies, the pecking order theory is followed. What is pecking order theory? It means when the company wants to make financial decisions, it prefers to finance its investments from internal resources, generated funds rather than external resources. It means that on the first place, it's internal, what she gets, this company, and only later, the company is thinking about borrowing. Among the macroeconomics factors, the country's economic growth and foreign direct investments influence. Among the sector-specific factors, the capital structure is influenced by the Port Infrastructure Quality Index and the Trade Openings Index. And factors in the social environment do not have a significant effect on the capital structure. And the third variable, debt to the equity, is influenced by the productivity of the environment and resources, which reflects environmental efficiency. Analyzing the impact of the capital structure on the value of the company, it was found that the capital structure has positive effect. So this is bold line. And in order to find the breaking point for the confirmation of the last hypothesis, it was initially modeled when neither variable is logarithmized, then only the dependent or independent variable is logarithmized, and at the later stage, both were logarithmized. In this case, I present the most appropriate method obtained when the dependent variable was logarithmized is presented. Calculating the breaking point, it was found that as long as borrowed funds reach until 61%, the value of the company in the maritime sector would increase. And very shortly for conclusions, the studies show that the capital structure of companies in the maritime sector is influenced by internal and external environmental factors, which must be taken into account when making capital structure decisions. And the capital structure has an impact on the value of the company in the maritime companies, and the borrowed capital can only increase to a certain level in order to maximize the value of the company. Thank you very much. I didn't hear what said moderator, sorry, because I was concentrated on my.
Thank you very much, Christina, for interesting presentation. We have short time for short questions, and then I would like my co-moderator, Isolde Skruivite. I would like to ask Isolde to take over the moderation of the section, because we should improve the time management. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Okay, and now we invite the speaker from Hungarian University of Agriculture and Life Science, Daniel Molnar. And his presentation is about market efficiency and farmer profitability in the Hungarian crisis. He was unable to come here to Klaipėda, and he is presenting online. Please, Daniel. Daniel, please turn on your microphone. Daniel, do you hear us? Daniel.
I'm sorry, I'm here, yeah.
Okay, everything is okay. We are listening to you.
Okay, give me a second, please. I will share my screen.
Okay, we are waiting. Thank you. We can see already.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course. First of all, let me grab the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Molnár, first year PhD student at Hungarian University of Agricultural and Life Sciences in Kaposvár. And the topic of my lecture is market efficiency and farm level profitability in the Hungarian grazing sector. Grazing livestock farming is based on a very complex system of relations where the needs of the grassland supply side and animal demand side are met by the organization of farming. From a profitability point of view, grass-based livestock farming can only be profitable if these needs can be met in the most efficient way and, on the other hand, at the lowest possible cost. Following the EU occasion, the sector is in a better position and mainly due to the rural development supports. The competitiveness of domestic grazing farms is lower than that of livestock farms within the sector for several reasons. We have a relatively lower stock compared to the EU average, and our meat consumption is very low as well. And a significant number of the farms do not have the necessary innovative equipment, which makes it more difficult to remain competitive. The development of the market competition was examined with the profit persistence coefficients, which was analyzed in both the short and the long term as well, and the profitability of these plans was examined with the return on assets. It's called ROE indicator. Bain, in his study, examined the results of the US dairy industry, in which the relatively high proportion of negative profit persistence values is remarkable. The obtained results support the hypothesis as a negative average values were observed for the cooperatives only, from which we can draw the consequence that the profits of these plants fluctuate significantly in over time. In their research, Hirsch and Hartmann examined the plants in the European dairy industry, and before estimating the profit persistence, it was tested that which autoregressive model best determines the development of the profit persistence. The investigation found that the dairy sector didn't have a remarkably high profit persistence value due to the relatively high proportion of cooperatives and the high number of government interventions compared to the other industries. And the last is Tamirad and his co-authors in their study examined dairy farms and pig farmers, among others, on the basis of the Dutch FADN database between 2001 and 2015. Their research found that the highest proportion of pig farmers is present in the Dutch livestock sector, and modified ROE and net profit margin ratios were used to test the results, and then the results were analyzed using the OLS, Quantile OLS, and GMM. The distribution of the 21st century grazing livestock sector by form of farming was on average 90% to 10% in favor of individual farms. And there was no significant changes in the distribution of the farms based on the FAD and database during the study period. The size distribution of grazing livestock farms was divided into 3 categories, which were determined on the basis of the standard production values. During the period under review, it can be seen that the number of the medium-sized farm is the dominant, and small farms account for about 1/3 of the domestic grazing, and the number of large farms is negligible. And overall, while the domestic grazing livestock farms increased by 8 percentage points during the period under review, the large farms more than doubled, but the number of medium-sized farm was decreased by 8%. In the research, we used the database of the Farm Accountancy Data Network, called FADN, and only farms with a minimum of 8 years were considered in the study, as the longest possible time series is needed to analyze the dynamics. In examining the persistence of the profit, the ROE indicator is the generally accepted measure of the profitability, which measures the performance of the economy as a whole. The ROE is given by the quotient of the profit after tax and the balance sheet and total of the plants. Markov chains are a stochastic process in which we examine the likelihood of a plant being transferred to a more profitable or less profitable groups. This approach differs from the method of the profit persistence examine, where the results are based on some econometrical estimate. And during the analysis, the number of profitability groups should be determined, which should be defined according to the size of the holdings surveyed, and these groups should be ranked according to profitability. And the last is the abnormal profit values, where it's used as a dependent variable in the OLS model, and then the development of profit persistence was estimated based on the coefficients thus obtained. And according to the literature, the autoregressive process is one of the generally accepted methodology for measuring the profit persistence. And on the other hand, higher order AR processes can also be used in the study of the profit persistence. Regarding the development of return on assets, we find that the average ROE increased by 129% in the period under review, with an average annual growth rate of 9.5% in the same period. It is worth mentioning the average value in 2011, where there was a huge 128% increase compared to the average value in the initial year. But this value increased only minimally, only 1 percentage point in the last year. So in overall, there was a strong fluctuations during the period considered, but overall there was a significant increase compared to the 2006 average value. And also the development of the equity ratio of the plants is also relevant to the final results of the research. And during the period under review, we see an increasing trend, that is, the value of the liabilities of the farms decreases over the years. I classified the profit and the abnormal profit into 5 equal element groups based on the size of the examined farms, where the group 1 is with the least profitable farms, and group 5 is the group with the farms with the highest probability. Table 1 shows the results for the ROE indicator, and examining the probabilities in the diagonal, we find that the farms in group 1 and group 5 have the highest probability, as these values are above 0.5, and from which we can draw the consequence that these farms have a relatively high profit persistence values. And in the case of the abnormal profits, we see a similar trend, that there is farms that perform below the average market level, find it more difficult to move out of their current position. The performance of farm is categorized by the strong stagnation. The ideal situation for farm is to be as far away from the equilibrium level as possible, including an even more preferred situation where the farms are above the market levels, as they will perform better than the market returns. And based on the distribution of short-term profit by form of persistence, it is noteworthy that during the period under review, in the case of sold peer sheep, the positive values are decisive and the negative values are mainly related to corporate farms. And negative averages indicate that profits fluctuate strongly in over time, and an average value of 0.01 over the entire interval indicates that the level of profit persistence of grazing livestock farm in the short run is very low. The size. What?
3 minutes from now.
Okay. Okay. The size analysis of short-term profit persistence shows the average values are negative for small and large farms, but the positive average value of medium-sized farms improves our farms. And most grazing farms are located in the range of 0.0 to 0.5, and values between -1 and 1 are taken into the account in the analysis because only at these values is convergence to the equilibrium ensured. Based on the long-term profit persistence values, it can be seen that for the whole sample, the long-term projected profit rate, which is significantly different from 0, is 22.43%, and that is the profits of these plants do not come back to the norm in the long run. And the proportion of plants with significantly negative values was 16.82%. And however, this value is much higher than that of plants with the significant positive value. And examining the average ROE in the affected farms it can be concluded that despite the negative long-term profit persistence value, and the farms makes a profit, 95.83% of farms, and these are significantly different from zero, are individual, and remaining operates in the form of corporate enterprise. And the conclusions that grazing livestock sector underwent significant changes in the period under review, and in terms of profitability, we can definitely see an absolutely increasing trend. By the end of the period under review, the proportional return on assets based on profit after the tax and operating profit had increased significantly, while the liabilities of the sector had decreased significantly, as indicated by the increase in the equity ratio of the enterprises. And based on the ROE estimate of the short-term profit persistence, it can be seen that a significant proportion of grazing livestock farms operate as individual farms. And according to the literature, although AR1, but in our case, the AR3 model best describes the profit rates. And from a policy point of view, market efficiency in grazing livestock is relatively high. Competition is fairly balanced, and the deviation from the sectoral average profit for some farms persists in both the short and the long term as well. And the ranking of profitability between the farms and the level of abnormal profit are much more shaped by dynamically changing environmental factors, for example, climate change or regulations. And on the other hand, the ad hoc internal changes, for example, corporate management, and then by long-term strategic decisions and developments, or even the subsidies to the sector under the KAP.
Thank you, Daniel.
For attention.
Thank you very much. The presentation was very interesting and very important. And dear participants, it was final presentation, and I thank you very much for all presentations you have made today during this conference. All presentations were important, very relevant, and I invite you to connect to main room, main session for final speech. Thank you.
Yes, we would like to thank our moderators, Professor Zoltan Wagner, Professor Vinograd Sergey, and Associate Professor Zolda for being wonderful today, for moderating all of these wonderful presentations. And we would like to ask all of our online presenters and moderators to turn on the first section right now, the link that was with the plenary session. There are still some presentations going on, but pretty soon we will have a closing ceremony of the 14th International Scientific Conference. So please participate in that, and this is the end of this section. My sincere and personal thank you to these wonderful moderators. See you soon in the other section. Okay.